back then. He's confrontational, he's a troublemaker, he's a mad dog. That was my impression of him back then. And why do I have this kind of impression? Because I read the Straits Times, I read the mainstream media. But when I first met him, I was completely shocked. He is nothing of what I read. And through my years of time with the SDP, started as a volunteer first, I have so many people approaching me and telling me that Dr. Chee is not the kind of person they read from the mainstream media. So, which is why a few of us came up with the idea, we should counter that, especially with the next general election that is coming, and also with Dr. Chee being able to stand as a candidate in the next general election. We have to counter that perception of the people, which is why we have all this personal experience of people who work with him, who knows him personally, to come forward and tell our side of the story. And it is also important that when we have this counter, that the PAP no longer use the personal attacks on their political opponent. It is also important that with that handle or that settle, as if we change the perception, PAP can now engage us in our policy. No more.
Yeah, the question is, Dr. Chee was very active in civil society at a time when it was not popular. He stood up and protested in front of the Istana at a time when nobody else dared to do that. So, in 5 years' time, when we have 3-4 parties in Parliament, when we have Singaporeans don't feel afraid to raise their questions and their concerns, the question is always going to be, where were you in the 1990s, in the early 2000s? It was really, really difficult to do that. And I think the one person who can really stand up with his hand on his heart and say, I was there, is actually Dr. Chee. So that's it.
The last 20 years, I've seen Soon Juan jumping in and out of fire, to put it mildly, right? I mean, 20 years is a long time to temper a piece of steel, right? That was how long he has endured, and I think he's still enduring it. So the next 20 years, hopefully it will be less hot for him.
I think that's not the only significant thing that she has contributed. Of course, it's tried very hard to open up the political space for Singaporeans so that we don't just follow the PAP narrative all the time. It's changed a lot of minds. It's been very persistent and very the diehard. He's a diehard, and I think that has opened up the political space.
I've been monitoring the so-called following Dr. Chee's story since the early 90s, and there was this skepticism that kind of demonization that you see in the mainstream media wasn't really what was made up to be. He wasn't really that kind of person. And I think I was given a book right late 90s in Singapore. I read it. It was a great education for me, and I thought it was a man after my heart. I mean, he was someone who's for the underdog. He taught me about the learned from prisoners, the war from how democracy should be a bedrock of all societies. I said, well, yeah, no sense. This is a madman that the press is making out to be. And so I thought to myself, well, we've always complained about the lack of opposition in Singapore. So it behooves us. In order to complain about lack of opposition, I need to stand up as a community to get involved. Or at the very least, support those people who have stood up for us.
We thought that topic was, that title would be nice, and we hope that it reflects, and it does reflect the tone of the stories, of the articles in this book. And we hope that all of you will buy it and really know know Dr. Chee for who he is, and not what he's painted out to be.
And I just want our politics to get past this state where we just keep calling each other names. It benefits no one. It benefits not a single Singaporean who's very worried about their future. And this is why I'm hoping that the younger set of ministers will not continue on with this kind of politics, and instead take us on our ideas, debate them, and then let's just show people whose ideas, whose policies, whose vision of a future Singapore people can relate to, and that they resonate with, and that they want for our country. That should be the way.